Let's look at our next example. And the first thing that I want to do, just like last time, is I want to isolate the thing that has the exponent on it. And so I need to move the 2 to the other side, and I'll do that by dividing both sides by 2. That's going to leave me with x plus 5 raised to the 4th power is equal to 81. And now I know that I can undo a 4th power by taking the 4th root. But if I do that on one side, I have to do it on the other side as well. And let's take a look at what our solutions are going to be. We know that n is even, and our a value, the number under the radical, is greater than 0. It's a positive number, so that leads me to having 2 real roots. So we know that we need to report a positive and a negative value. So let's go ahead and see what that's going to look like. We can get rid of the 4th power and the 4th root. Those cancel each other, and we'll be left with x plus 5 on this side. And then that's going to be equal to, well, let's think about this. Let's go ahead and take this over to Desmos and see what our calculator gives us. All right, even though we already did this in one of the examples on the front of our foldable, let's go ahead and remind ourselves. We want to select our radical with the n and put a 4 as our index and an 81 as our a value. But we're a little smarter than Desmos is, and we know that if we are even, we could have a 3 or a negative 3. So let's go report that in our notes. So here we are back in our notes, and I know that the 4th root of 81 is either positive or negative 3. But I'm not quite done with this yet because I need to know what x is. I really don't care what x plus 5 is. I want to know what x itself is. And so in order to find that, I need to subtract 5 from both sides. So this is going to leave me with x on one side and a minus 5 plus or minus 3 on the other side. And so we want to break that into the 2 separate pieces. We're going to have x is equal to negative 5 plus 3. That's going to give me a negative 2, and that's one of my answers. But x could also be equal to negative 5 minus 3, and negative 5 minus 3 is going to give me negative 8. So these are my 2 answers. If you wanted to, you could prove this to yourself. You could take negative 2 and plug it back in here for x, and whenever you did all of this math in your calculator, you'll get 162. And the same thing if you have a negative 8 and you plug it in here for x, you're going to come up with 162 when you put all of this in your calculator. Let's look at one more solving example. This one doesn't have a number out in front of x, so I'm not going to be dividing to get rid of anything, but I need to still isolate that x to the 5th, the thing that has my power on it, my exponent. So in order to do that, this time I need to add 32 to both sides. And so that leaves me with x to the 5th is equal to a negative 32. This time, in order to get rid of the 5th power, I need to take a 5th root. So I want to know what the 5th root of negative 32 is. Let's go to Desmos. Now over here in Desmos, just like before, I'm going to select nth root and put in a 5. And then here I have a negative 32. And that's going to give me an answer of negative 2 because I have an odd index n. That means that this is the one and only root that I'm going to have. Back here in my notes, I can cancel the 5th power with the 5th root, and that's going to leave me with an x on this side, and I will have a negative 2 as my one and only solution. I know that my n value was odd, so that means that this is the one real root.